You can see all kinds of different worlds through different fragments of silicon.
Welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon, our post-Thanksgiving edition. Right, joining me as always are the stuffing and peas to my turkey, Petty Fan and the Golics.
I call stuffing.
You can have whatever you want, homie.
I don't want to be peas.
Understandable. Can I be olives instead?
Are olives a Thanksgiving thing?
Yeah.
You could be cranberry sauce.
Ew.
I have questions about your Thanksgiving meal.
We can go into that later.
Yeah. Well, we're about to go into the news, so, and you seem to volunteer here. So, take it away, Petty.
So Thanksgiving, I guess, break was rather quiet. I got second at the store championship for the Digimon thing, which is kind of nice. They were supposed to do my, root canal today, but apparently the roots of my tooth are too complex for the dentist who started it. So they want me to come back on the 21st to have another dentist do it. So that's fun. Note the air quotes.
Yeah, I'm like, too complex?
Yeah, I ain't no dentist.
They were clearly not a very skilled dentist, or if they were skilled with other things.
Yeah. Apparently this dentist specializes in root canals, so hopefully fourth time's a charm.
I guess. Knock on all the woods at this point.
As far as game pickups go, I picked up Tony Hawk Pro Skater, that remake for PS4 that has 1 and 2. Because it was super cheap on GameStop, and figured why the hell not.
Division?
It's used, so they didn't get anything out of it.
Fair.
And I also decided to pick up Jump Force since it's being, delisted. I've heard
the online functionality is also going away in February, right?
Yeah, but it still has a single player mode at least.
And local co-op?
Yeah.
Or local versus, rather, probably mostly.
Yeah, it was one of those things I was kind of interested in, and the deluxe edition is $10 on PSN right now, so I figured why not. I have Pokemon Brilliant Diamond thanks to Gulix. So we
consider it an early Christmas present since we're covering it anyway.
Indeed. And I have all my Christmas shopping done for this year, so yay! Thanks, Amazon. And I think that's it for me.
Alright. Your go, Gulix.
Thanksgiving was also kind of quiet for me. We saw my sister before Thanksgiving, but she couldn't be there for it. And then, on the day after Thanksgiving, I decided not to go down to visit my family for second Thanksgiving on account of, we're going to be going down again in like 2 weeks, so
Second Thanksgiving sounds like a Hobbit thing.
I mean, we always used to do with my dad's side of the family, but they're scattered now, so it was my mom and dad decided to go down to my mom's side of the family. But this year we're having family Christmas very early because that's when everyone's available.
Fun.
So yeah, it's always stressful even if it's a good time, so I didn't feel like it. Plus, hopefully by then I can have my booster shot and stuff. I'm still not really comfortable being in crowded people places, not that I ever was.
Yeah. I think that goes for all of us here.
Yeah.
Let's see, I managed to pick up Shin Megami Tensei 5 as well as Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, though I have not started the Pokemon games yet. I'm planning on doing it soon.
So I was your guinea pig then?
Kind of. Also, I wanted to make sure I had someone who could trade me stuff from the other version, because I wanted to go Pearl, but a lot of my friends are doing Pearl too.
Convenient. My favorite Pokemon is Scyther then, isn't it?
I may actually try to play through the game quickly this time, which is not normally something I do with Pokemon. So, we'll see.
Understandable.
Alright. Alright.
I don't think I have much else special going on, though, so...
Alright, that means it's my go. Let's see. Yeah, my Thanksgiving was not so much quiet, but abbreviated, as I headed down to my brother's place, but was only there for a few hours because he works retail. So he had to take a nap before he had to go in for Black Friday. So...
Poor bastard.
I mean, you do what you have to do. Like, but, you know, overall it was nice, and fuck's sakes, I'm going to be seeing him twice this month. That is, it's now December, because gotta go back down there on the 18th, which is my nephew's, his oldest birthday, and then down for the day after Christmas, if I'm remembering correctly. Not actual Christmas, but we had to work around his work schedule. And also, like, you know, they wanted to spend actual Christmas with just their family, which is fine. But, yeah. A lot of seeing family after a lot of years not seeing family. Like, it takes some getting used to. Like, and let's see. As a reminder, the last news desk on the left is officially retired now, so we will be having the post-show return. No promises on Kevin, though, since I remember he wanted to take all of December off, but we'll see what happens there. Let's see, in terms of games, I'm still going through Final Fantasy V, the Pixel Remaster. Just beat X-Death on the second world. This playthrough is going a lot slower than usual because I'm trying to fill out the bestiary and get all the blue magic, which leads to some interesting choices. You know, like making sure... Well, it's like making sure everyone has learn on the X-Death battle, so I pick up Doom, which is the earliest point I can do that. Anyway, in terms of pickups, well, I've been, you know, gifted a few things for review in the near recent future, like Sam and Max Time and Space. We reviewed the first season last year, and that's next week. And just got a pre-release copy of Shovel Knight Pocket Edition. So, looking forward to that. And yeah, I suppose that's all my news. So, merrily, we should roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us this week is Wade Adams of Twinentertainment.
Hi there.
Hi. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good.
Okay. Well, let's see. So, how we like to get started is we like to get to know the people, the person behind the games, the studio, and all that jazz. And we do this by asking this question: what got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
Well, I've always been interested in games. Not to date myself, I guess, but you know, I've, I've been, I mean, I actually played the original Atari, and I all the way up. Had the color computer version of the Tandy. I used to write games on that even, but yeah, so I mean, I've been writing games long before they had convenient engines for writing games, really. But and I have a degree in computer science, and I actually write database software for a living and general technology kind of stuff. So I mean,
Okay.
I mean, all that kind of stuff is my wheelhouse. So.
This is not an uncommon path for a lot of the developers we've had on the program. You know, it's like gamed a lot as a kid, maybe created amateur projects growing up, got a degree in something game adjacent. Yeah, programming's a big one. And I suppose that leads us to what made you make the jump into, is Dark Dragonkin your first professional, like, commercial release?
Yeah, commercial, yeah. I've done a couple of, like, small cell phone kind of games before, but I really didn't make any significant money off of them per se. I got one out called Nerd Word that's still available. It's a totally free game. It's basically just a basic kind of word game. Um, and I have one that I don't think is available in the store anymore called Alphabet Acceleration, which is basically a letter shuffle kind of game where it's basically like a high score kind of alphabet. You put in the alphabet, as fast as you can, and it's like a global, regional kind of high score with the Google Play interaction. But I don't think that one's available anymore, mostly because of the way the store wants you to update stuff.
Uh, and once again, that gets to the question of, what made you want to, like, do a full-on, game here, for lack of a better term.
Well, I mean, I've always wanted to, so this was one of those things I always wanted to do, and I love role play games. I mean, I got my own copy, like you were talking about Final Fantasy V. I've got that too. I mean, I love all those games, the old games like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy and those kind of games. I played most, if not all of them, I'm sure. And I don't know if you're familiar with Lost Vikings. That's an old classic kind of game.
Yep.
This game kind of has its roots in it. If you can't tell, where you're controlling each character, and each character has its own different abilities to use. Which the demo you're playing through right now is kind of walking you through that different abilities and controlling the characters kind of deal.
And right, I suppose for those who are watching who might not be familiar with the Lost Vikings, that is a Super NES and various platforms around that time. It's a side-scrolling puzzle platformer where you control three Vikings who have different skills. Like, one has a shield that you can use as a platform, and one has mechanical fists that you use for attacking. And I'm trying to remember what the third guy could do. Well, not important, but the Lost Vikings was indeed a side scroller. This is a top-down dungeon crawler. I'm not sure. Is it a roguelike?
No, it's the levels are fixed, and the concept is you're supposed to use the different abilities of the characters either separately or in combination to work your way through the levels.
Right.
So each person has different abilities, and then so they can each affect different things. So like
Uh-huh.
just for example, like that torch that you're looking at, that you saw one of on the first level, like the Evelina can't do nothing with that, but Nova can. So
Right. So you've got to use all of the powers in either conjunction or separately to complete a level.
exactly.
Yeah. Now, what made you want to go with a top-down perspective?
Well, well, a lot of the classic RPGs are in this perspective, and this actually gives the whole thing a different feel than Lost Vikings, even though Lost Vikings is kind of where the basic concept of the different characters come from, but it gives it a whole different feel because you can move in four directions, and instead of you know being a platformer kind of deal where all you can do is jump, so you can move in like a classic kind of dungeon crawler kind of way instead. It gives it a whole different feel to it. So it's like basically like a I kind of lost what my thought was going to be, but it's basically crawling through a dungeon like in Final Fantasy or anything like that, except instead of everything being like combat, it's like figuring out how to get through. I mean, it's like figuring it out how to get to everybody to that portal is the first thing, and the combat's a secondary thing. Like we're in a traditional role play game is kind of flip flop. You know what I mean?
Right. This is more of a puzzle game with, say, action RPG elements.
Yeah. Instead of the other way around. Yeah. It's like instead of you know like Final Fantasy. I mean, there's some puzzles, but mostly you're doing the combat. And this game, you're mostly doing the puzzles, but there. I mean, not to say there isn't combat.
Right.
But the combat in this is situational more than anything. It's which character can counter which thing kind of thing. So I mean, when you see a dragonkin in front of you, which character is in the right position with the right skills to counter that? The same way with the boulder, it's like you see the boulder, Rose is the one that's got the shield slam that's going to be able to move the boulder. So everything's got that kind of aspect to it, that right place, right time, right skill.
And I suppose that begs the question: who are these characters? What are they doing in this dungeon?
It was explained a little bit in the tutorial, but basically they're on a rescue mission. The prince has been kidnapped by the dragonkin, and they've come in to rescue him. So they're going through the levels, and eventually there will be a opportunity for them to rescue the prince.
Mm-hmm. And who are the four characters, and what do they do?
Well, Rose is kind of a tank kind of character. She's got the shield, and she can use block and shield charge, and block will will prevent you from taking damage, especially from the front end. And the shield charge can stun or move things around. And then you got Dante, and he's kind of like the melee kind of assassin or ninja kind of guy. And he has a backstab, which works like if he can get behind the enemy, he can take him out. And he has a jump ability, which if you go to any one of those little blue arrows, he can jump over to the other side of where those are. And Nova is the mage kind of character and has a fireball spell, and which gets a lot of the Dragonkin, just not the red ones. And the he's got a counter spell which will dispel a number of things like doors and chests, and actually it'll dispel projectiles too. If you're getting hit with a fireball, he can throw that out, and it'll actually counter the fireball as well. And then Evelina, kind of like, almost like a druid kind of healer, and she can turn into the fairy, which lets her slide into those cracks in the wall, which I that's really one of my favorite skills in the game. There's not a lot of you know that kind of mechanic going on in a lot of games, so I really like that, and it actually a lot of dev time on that compared to a lot of the other skills, of course. And then she's also the healer. She has that recover spell, which will recover somebody if they've got knocked out, or it gives a little health to the other players if they're just injured.
I was wondering about that because, going back to the Lost Vikings, if one of the Vikings died, they all died.
Yeah, that was a little annoying with that game. It's like well, you can keep playing, but you're kind of hosed. And yeah, that was kind of annoying with that. And then but yeah, as long as you keep her up, you can actually recover the person if you can get her to the person.
And that does bring up my next question. What happens if your healer goes down?
Well, yeah, you're pretty much in that same position at that point. The levels aren't incredibly ridiculously long a piece.
Mm-hmm.
So if you end up dying and you can't recover, you can that little circle button over there lets you restart what you just did, but lets you restart the level from scratch and put you back where you were. So
right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And how many levels are you looking to have in the completed game?
Right now, there is 80, and that is what I'm projecting to have at launch as well.
Okay. And I suppose that beckons the question: what is the current state of the game?
It's in a fairly complete state. I'm planning on releasing first quarter next year. So I got like maybe one or two little minor features I want to add. But primarily testing, is what I want to do from now to launch kind of deal. I got the visual update done. I actually had more of a Zelda kind of perspective on the tiles, and really, I think this perspective works a lot better with the character sprites and everything. So I just literally put out the patch this weekend to make bring this perspective into it. So, but it's gonna be a lot. I'm gonna be doing a lot of testing to make sure that there's no major bugs or anything, which to the best of my knowledge there's not, but you know how that goes, but
Right.
but I'm gonna be doing a fair amount of testing and stuff like that between now and then, but it's in a fairly complete state. Right now, if you have one of the pre-release keys, you literally can play the game all the way through to the level 80 and
Okay.
and defeat the game now. So, and best I can tell, there's no major bugs or defects going on.
Good to hear. And
So, I would almost say it's releasable now, but I'm not quite there.
It's all about that
you always gotta
polish.
test more than you think you do.
Yeah. Believe me, we've heard that on this program more than once. Like, it's one of those, if we had a nickel situations. That being said, what was it like coming up with the actual puzzles? Was that difficult? Or?
And right here, the real key is going to be getting rid of that dragonkin that's pointing the wrong direction there, so that you can get Dante around behind the dragonkin, so you can stab him in the back. It's really going to be the trick there. But you see what I mean?
Yeah. Anyway, in terms of level creation and puzzle creation, will there be an editor for those kinds of things, either at launch or post-launch? Hello? Hello?
We're here.
Uh-oh. Did something happen to our guest?
Hope not.
Wade, are you still there? Hang on. Bear with us. We're not sure if we
Together
have...
idea now.
There he
Oh,
is.
there you are. Sorry, you got cut off. So, whatever you said, we didn't hear. Anyway, try asking this again. Will a level editor or level creation tools be present when the game launches or post-launch? Uh-oh.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, whatever's going on is at the, happening to the guest, not us. The wonders and perils of live broadcasting.
Do it live, they said. It'll be fun, they said.
It's either that or edit.
Yeah,
And-
fair.
Like, none of us said we want to edit these things. Like, so we broadcast live, flaws and all. All right, let me ping them in the Discord.
This is where we play the Jeopardy music, if we had the rights to it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see.
Not my fault this
Concerning.
time, I swear.
I'm not sure anyone's at fault since we don't know what's going on. Wade?
And there's another mechanic to this. The faster you do the levels, the more like you can get like a 3-star time or a 2-star time, that kind of thing too. So
Okay.
there's a certain replayability to get the better time rather than just the completion of it.
It sounds like you were talking about something regarding to speedrun. Unfortunately, a lot of your audio got dropped. So, and he may have dropped again.
Wonderful.
Well, I'm not sure how much more viable this interview can get if this is going to keep happening. Like, I mean,
The player stops the boulders is what's going on there.
Oh, okay. Wait, can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Oh,
I'm
wow.
guessing- Like, this is starting to turn into a sketch routine because he's still talking about the game and is apparently unaware that we can't hear him. Like, and watch, he's probably gonna oscillate in with more whatever conversation he's having with, unfortunately, no one right now. Like,
It might have been delayed too, so
right. I'm not saying it hasn't, but he was still talking the last couple of times. Like,
Let me try messing with server settings.
bear with us. Like, at least we know it's a localized source to our guest. Like, it's a shame. It was it was a fairly interesting conversation we were having there. And,
I've got him on message.
Okay. Well,
1
let him
second.
know. Like, because what he can do is he can, drop in, drop out.
All right, everybody still here?
Nope.
Hello?
Oh?
All right. Golux, you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, we're all here.
All right, is the guest here?
Doesn't seem like it.
He said he's still talking, and he said he muted the Twitch side, and he still doesn't hear us.
Whatever's going on here, like, is he coming up on stream?
No, because I'd hear him if he was.
Yeah, so whatever conversation he's having is not being picked up.
He might have to leave and come back.
Yeah, tell him to drop out of the call and drop in.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The joys of doing it live.
Yeah. Well, it's been a while since we've had a failure of this proportion, and once again, it's not on our side because we got 3 people that can be heard versus 1 person that can be heard. Where does the fault lie, I ask?
Meanwhile, if Potato's out there somewhere, he's probably laughing his head off.
I mean, spreading blame isn't helping anyone.
How are we doing now?
Can you hear us? We can hear you.
I hear you. Yeah,
there we go.
I restarted everything, so I think we're okay.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
Nope, no worries.
We have no idea what happened there, but
yeah,
the stream has been going fine.
Yeah,
just you were dropping and then dropping in and out, and it was weird.
Yeah, so we did not get the last quite several minutes of conversation there. So I think we were on level creation. So we'll pick up there. Are there going to be level creation tools at launch or post-launch?
There shouldn't be any kind of level creation tools going. Okay. I don't think.
Okay. And I think you were talking about something in regards to speedrunning when we could hear you?
Yeah, I was saying that you get a rating on the levels depending on how fast you complete the levels. There's where you get the 3-star time, 2-star time kind of thing at the end of the level. Just depending on how fast you complete the level.
And does getting better ratings on that accomplish anything, or is it just like a score to compare with others?
Yes. Actually, right now and probably at launch, the loot boxes and the stars actually have a functional purpose. The first 50 levels are unlocked right now, and in order to unlock the boss, the final boss level stuff, you gotta get all the treasure chests to get to the treasure boss, which is the first major boss, and then you get all the stars, and there's an astral boss after him. And once you've cleared those guys, there's a final set of levels that leads to the main boss. So they are functional after a certain point for those achievement unlocks, and they are tied to Steam achievements and stuff too.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Yeah, it was not wanting to behave there.
And will there be optional collectibles in the game?
No, it's just mainly the chest, and then you get the stars by virtue of being able to
Okay.
that you get.
And what sort of multiplayer will this game have, if any?
There wouldn't be any multiplayer. It's single player.
Only?
Yeah, and you switch between the characters.
That's interesting.
Yeah. A bit surprising, too. Like, you know, especially when you got, like, 4 characters here. Like, I suppose
But I suppose it's a lot easier to code without that, so.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a whole nother layer of complexity to add multiplayer
yeah.
for sure.
Oh,
And it plays more like Lost Vikings this way. I mean, because I know Trine does something similar to that, where you switch between the characters, but you literally can control all the characters, or you can have all the characters running through at the same time, kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's not unheard of what you're talking about, but
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know if this game particularly will do that. If it's a major success, and there's a sequel, I may consider that as an option, but I don't know that the levels or anything are set up to where if I were to implement it, that it would
Yep.
make sense necessarily.
Yep. And now, are you a solo dev act?
Yeah, I actually developed this basically by myself. I contracted out some of the art, and I actually contracted out the music. But in terms of coordinating it and the programming and all that stuff, yeah, that's me.
Okay. And how long have you been working on this game?
Um, it's been on the I did some of the parts earlier, but like started like full developing it. Maybe last August or so. Started serious. I had like a concept mocked up before, but in terms of really pulling code together and making it into a functional product, about August last year.
Okay. So about a year and some change in terms of actual, full-time or side developments.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta do a full-time job too, so it's kind of it's like
Right. We've had other people do that kind of balancing act. It's
yeah,
like it's just sometimes even with games that look fairly simple or plain, that end up can also like I worked on this for 3 to 5 years kind of deal as well.
yeah, it depends how much time you got. I mean, it can be your skill level too, but it also is the amount of time you got to deal with it. I mean, if you work full time and you only got like a couple hours at night you know before you go to bed, I mean, it limits the because literally, if I could work on this full time, it would have drastically cut down the time it took to develop. But nobody wanted to put a dump truck full of money in my front yard to finance that. So, you know how that goes.
Yeah.
If only they would do that to more people.
I know.
Like, anyway, so have you determined what sort of pricing for Dark Dragon King here when it comes out?
It's probably going to be in the $10 to $15 range, probably.
That sounds about right. And in terms of computer builds, is this Windows only, or are you shooting for Mac and or Linux as well?
Right now, it's Windows only. If there was enough, if it launches well, I have no problem it wouldn't be that much to port it to Linux or Mac or anything else. It's just a matter of the cost involved in properly testing out a build for it. But
And I guess my final question: do you have any sort of release window in mind yet for next year?
Yeah, it's going to be first quarter. Most likely after the Steam Fest. I'm planning on participating in Steam Fest this year with the game, so it'll probably be after that.
Okay. Well, good luck to you on finding success there. And
Oh, yeah.
I'll see if my colleagues here have any additional questions for you.
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think I got most of what I was curious about.
All right. Technical snafus aside, Wade, it was good having you on the program and telling us about your game here. And we look forward to its full and complete release.
Absolutely. I appreciate coming on. I'm sorry there was technical issues, but
We managed to roll with the punches and, got things salvaged.
Wasn't the first time, sure as hell won't be the last time.
Yep.
for sure.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
Once again, the game is Dark Dragonkin. It is up on Steam in terms of a demo. So if you want to try before you buy, and it sounds like there's going to be a more elaborate demo coming soon. And you can also wishlist today, so be sure to go and do that. Petty, play us to the next segment. Welcome to the topic of discussion. So this week, we, and by me, we, I mean they, are going to be talking about Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Yeah. Which is the remakes of Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum.
Mostly Diamond and Pearl. They included a few things from Platinum, but mostly in ways that make it really clear that they're still considered extra.
Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, like Pokemon Platinum was the last time they did the combined release after.
Yeah, Gen 5 and Gen 6 did do second releases. Or no, wait, 6 didn't. Gen 5 and Gen 7 did second releases, but in both cases, in one case it's a sequel, and in the other case it's an alternate telling, and in both versions it's not just one version, it's split.
Right, what I'm saying is the pattern was forever broken by Pokemon Black and White not introducing Pokemon Gray.
Or Crimson, or Ice Blue, or whatever the fuck, yeah. It's a little bit unclear what they would have done, well, because what they always did with the third versions, by which I mean like the 4 times they did it, is that you got pretty much most if not all of the things from that were exclusive to the 2 versions, but then didn't get some of the things that were in both of them, and that was always a little bit awkward. Like, you can't get Roselia in Emerald, and that is always a little weird. But yeah, we're not talking about the first time through, we're talking about the remakes, and these remakes have been somewhat controversial for a couple of reasons. The first one of these is that these aren't developed by Game Freak, which is definitely ultimately a good thing that they're spreading around their workload, because Game Freak is not a huge company.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe Ilka, who's the ones who are doing it, have worked on some games before that are pretty good, but they were untested with doing a major RPG thing. And also, along with that, while the previous remakes have all brought everything up to the standard of the current gen, in terms of aesthetics and mechanics and new Pokemon, this one puts everything in 3D and includes the fairy type and stuff, which weren't out yet. but the overworld design and aesthetics are still designed to... I mean, even in battle, there's a lot more static posing and camera angles, because they're trying to keep most of the gameplay as close to the original as possible. Which has been somewhat controversial, because the overworld stuff looks like little plastic toys, and some people don't care for that.
I mean, it looks better than it did in the first trailer because they added some shading and stuff, but it's still not great.
It's much different than what they've done for the last literally 3 generations, where each one has more and more detail in the overworld things. Although I think they did at least fix it so that Gen 4 was the last time that there was a significant expectation of characters' overworld models not matching their in-battle sprites if they were a trainer that you could fight. Like, I think Rich Boys and PIs/gamblers used the same sprite. Experts and old men used the same sprite and stuff, and there were a lot of things that did not look the way they did when you saw them up close. I think for this, they fixed that, though I could be mistaken, because like I said, I haven't started it yet, and I haven't seen people get very far in it. And most of this affects trainer classes that are later in the game, whereas youngsters and lasses are the generic young woman and the generic boy. They've also done some weird mechanical halfways between the way things used to be and the way things are. TMs are reusable, infinitely reusable TMs is gone. Which is overall inconvenient, but there's definitely an argument to be made that that resulted in infinite access to certain moves that are too good too early in the game. But they changed it so that in this game, most things that give you TMs, aside from finding them on the ground, give you multiples. And you can buy a lot of TMs, including some extremely good ones, for pretty low prices.
Yeah, I'd imagine since if they're not infinite, they better be cheap.
I think you can get Flamethrower, Thunderbolt, and Ice Beam in Veilstone, which is the 3rd gym town, but it's like halfway across the game. For like 3,000 Poké Dollars each, which is extremely cheap. That's as much as 3 Dusk Balls. So is that there's also there's Amity Park, which allows you to... I think that's the first place where you unlock the ability to have following Pokemon. But I think the first time through, they still have some of the restrictions on... At least they still have some restrictions on who you can have follow you in the park, which is a little strange. They did not integrate any of the stuff that Platinum added into the story. Like, there's a little bit of... Like, they replaced the PAL Park, which, since there's no need to transfer things from the previous generation here, since Pokemon Home exists. They replaced the PAL Park with a way to get old legendary Pokemon, which you have to get the right items to plug into a thing, and then they just... So, like, all they get for Giratina is a room that looks a little like the Distortion World. And I believe you can get the orb there that lets Giratina turn into its other form. There are also, another controversial thing is that there are some really odd glitches in this game. Some of them are the result of allowing the character to move diagonally in a game that was not originally designed for that. Like, there's at least one gym puzzle you can, like, completely sidetrack by doing that.
Those are fun.
And hilariously... some of the glitches that were rather infamous in the original, like the ones where you can sneak through the map to get to the Darkrai and Shaman event areas without the actual things, there are equivalent glitches in this.
Fun.
which, unlike the originals, this may be fixed.
They were literally before we went live. There was just another patch, so
yeah, I believe currently, pre that patch at least, the speedrun record for this game is something like 17 minutes, because there was a menu glitch that allowed you to basically skip through interactions, including trainer battles.
Fun.
So, yeah. I mean, it's funny, but it's kind of like is that what you really want out of your Pokemon games? There's also no game corner, because obviously anything with gambling in it is now an M-rated game or whatever. But you're totally allowed to have cockfights for money.
Yeah, that's.
I think they replaced that with that location is where they put the places where you can get alternate items or alternate outfits. Because they did at least include some degree of trainer customization, which is better than what they did in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, which I think some people were rather sore about. And they revamped the underground significantly with areas where you can encounter wild Pokemon that are not part of the normal regional Pokédex. And this game includes all of the Pokemon up to the end of Gen 4, but none from after Gen 4. Like, they're completely absent from the game, just like Dexit and Sword and Shield.
Like, I think literally if you try and force them in the game, it will crash.
Yeah, it literally, like, doesn't have those Pokédex slots. Which is interesting, because that means that there are still some Pokemon, although not many, that are not usable in any current generation game. Basically any of the ones that weren't in Sword and Shield after all the DLC and are from Gen 5 or later. Like Go-Goat is still completely inaccessible. Which is a shame if you like Go-Goat.
All of 2 people who like Go-Goat.
Hey, I like Go-Goat.
Okay, 3 people who like Go-Goat.
Anyway, I think it's overall. Also, some of the move pool changes are interesting. What they did include of new stuff and what they didn't. Like, Toxic was not a technical machine in Sword and Shield, which resulted in a sharp decrease in the number of Pokemon that can learn it. And it's a technical machine again in this, but it's not learnable by everyone. And it's not learnable by some distinct things like Umbreon, for example, who really should get it naturally, because their profile literally talks about them poisoning things.
Yeah.
Let's see. So yeah, it's I think pretty much every poison type can learn it, but not much that isn't.
Another thing they did that's a little bit off topic, but they fixed the whole really slow HP drain that the original versions had.
Well, they fixed that by Platinum, but there's a reason for that. Until that point, I think hit HP in all of the games, when you took damage, went down by a maximum of 1 point per frame or something like that. It's just that Gen 4 ran at 30 frames per second or something, and previous gens, or Gen 3 at least, had run at 60. So it took twice as long for a Blissey's hit points to drop. Which was significant. But yes, they did amp up the speed in general, I think. What was the other thing? There was something else that I think some people have had some issues with.
The Sword and Shield battle animations are back.
Yeah, the battle animations are nothing to write home about.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think has been fairly popular is that they have significantly, like, amped up the, teams and battle strategies of significant enemies. Like, even the first time through, gym leaders and especially the Elite Four and the Champion have, like, movesets on their Pokemon that are actually good for what that Pokemon is good at. And they start applying toward the end of the game, they start having, like, actual good IV and EV spreads. And then post-game gym leader rematches, and especially the, I think, second champion rematch, are just extremely tuned. And my understanding is that they do use a little bit of cheating AI, but, like, not in a way that feels super unfair usually.
It's not the Gen 2 Miltank situation.
It's mostly things like, oh, hey, it's Cynthia. Her Garchomp has Swords Dance. If you switch, she will Swords Dance.
And you are Bone.
Yeah. Unfortunately, among the things in Platinum they didn't include are the Battle Frontier, but the Battle Frontier was always cool in concept, but less cool in execution, I think. If that makes sense. Battle Frontier had issues. There were several parts of it that no one liked. I don't know if the Frontier tutors are available, but you can get BP and you can use those to buy things like the mints and ability patches and capsules that were introduced in Sword and Shield that let you change a Pokemon's ability or its nature. And I think bottle caps also.
Because everyone loves bottle caps.
Kricketot also isn't completely dead until it evolves in this... useless until it evolves in this game, because they, I believe, retained the lack of bide. Like, in the game at all, because nobody liked bide.
Yeah.
So it has actual moves. They're not great, but, like, at least you don't have to get it mostly killed for it to be able to do anything. I'm trying to think about one of the other contentious things I can't remember. I don't know that I've heard how they're doing berries.
I haven't gotten that far either, but I guess we could talk about the Pokewatch, or the Poketch as they're calling it now.
I mean, it always was that.
I thought, whatever.
Well, they made that since there's no touchscreen now, you can summon it to the corner of your screen to use it when you need to. Somewhat annoyingly, another thing they did not bring in from Platinum is the ability to have two buttons on it so you can scroll through the apps in either order. But it is kind of nice to have some of those things available again, like have a friendship checker just on you. The calculator is apparently horrifically bugged unless they fixed that. Like, try multiplying by a fraction or something.
We can try it later.
Anyway.
I think some of those crazy shit can crash the game.
Yeah, but I don't know. Anyway, the step counter, the friendship checker, those are nice things to have. Just, it would be nice if you could scroll through it in the other order if you wanted to.
It'd be nice
once you get more than 2 or 3 things, at least.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you could change the clock, because some of us don't like 24-hour time. But that's more of a personal gripe. At least you can hide it, the Poketch.
Yeah. They also removed the GTS is because in this game was the first time you had, like, wireless trading via the GTS.
Yeah, internet trading, rather, but yeah.
Yeah, and they put an actual building for it. But in this, I think that building is a Wonder Trade building. Because the GTS is apparently, they've made it one of the selling points of Pokemon Home. So, buy our separate service.
Also something Nintendo subscriptions.
Yes. On the plus side, you do have the ability to use an actual team of 6 Pokemon as you travel through the region, rather than having to have 2 party slots occupied permanently by HM buddies after about the halfway point of the game.
Yeah, specifically Bidoof.
Mostly Bidoof. Yeah, Bidoof does like 2 or 3 of them, Bidoof and Bibarel.
Mm.
But yeah, now the HMs, I think you get the ability to buy those TMs all when you get them or something.
Yeah.
For the moves, but for the purposes of field effects, you just have an app that calls wild Pokemon to do stuff for you, which is kind of like how the Pokemon Rangers do it.
I was just about mentioning that.
Also, there are some interesting pre-order and early adopter bonuses. I think you get the platinum outfits as an early adopter bonus. There's a Manaphy Egg event. Oh, and once you get to the town after the first gym, if you have save data from Let's Go Pikachu or Eevee and Sword or Shield, you get a free level 5 Mew and Jirachi, respectively. So, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly a more powerful gift than the Gigantamax Pikachu and Eevee you got in Sword and Shield for having the Let's Go ones. Some people have been upset that this game continues to have an experience share function that you cannot turn off, and more so that, as with Sword and Shield, the friendship which has been in the game since Gold and Silver was combined with the happiness that was added in Gen 6 with Pokemon and Me. I think I have those backwards, but whatever. They used to be 2 things, they're not now.
Mm.
And that function includes things like your partners that have high happiness friendship, getting crits more often, not dying when they would otherwise be killed. So it hung on because it was worried about you. Sometimes curing their own status conditions, stuff like that. Some people get annoyed by that because they think it feels like cheating, but it's certainly useful for making the game, beginner friendly, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a way around it. You can just buy and use bitter foods if you want your Pokemon to not have high friendliness.
Mm-hmm.
Return and frustration continue to not be in the game, which is weird because Bunny Lopunny was kind of their thing. But they're in this and just don't have it.
Fun.
So yeah. Overall, I think they didn't end up being as bad as I think a lot of people were worried they would be. I think overall these are pretty good remakes, as long as you're okay with them being faithful remakes and not like, oh man, I get to use the mega forms of the starters now and bring in Pokemon from later generations and use them in this region, which is a cool thing to get in remakes, but it was very clearly not the mission statements that they were going with here, you know?
Yeah. This was, hey, let's remake Gen 4, not, hey, let's have Gen 4 but with new guys.
Yeah. So yeah, there's nothing really new here except for a few alternate ways of getting things that weren't available in the originals.
Yeah.
But I think overall they did a pretty solid job. The art looks pretty good as long as you don't mind the overworld being extremely chibi.
Good to see Psyduck is still dead-eyed as hell.
Look, trust me, when you have a headache that bad, you would be too.
I can sympathize. But yeah, they also brought in some stuff like you can choose whether or not a Pokemon goes to your box or not from Sword and Shield.
A lot of the quality of life features
Mm-hmm.
are incorporated, which is good.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think that's it that I can think of.
Yeah. I would have more to say if I'd played more of the game so far, but unfortunately, I want to start when I have a few hours to sit down and dedicate to getting far enough to at least unlock Mystery Gift
Mm-hmm.
in both versions.
For reasons. Wink.
Well, because I want to get all the missable stuff.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, we still have our rival who really needs to take a freaking Adderall.
He's always in a hurry.
Yeah, I don't like Barry.
At least he has a thing. Some people feel like he's one of the last rivals that's actually a strongly rivaling character.
Not they want to be your bro.
Yeah, or they don't really care that much.
Mm-hmm.
Or they want to rival you with how many Pokemon they've caught, but they really, really suck at it.
Oh yeah, another quality of life they brought in was they tell you what you should be doing next.
Yeah, that's nice. I think that's a thing they've been doing.
Yeah.
In various ways for the last couple of things.
Indeed.
Also, I'm not sure how I feel about this overworld map because it is a little bit more in the style of the Galar one that is intentionally based on the London Underground rather than being necessarily a realistic representation. Although this does at least have the factor of the region was designed with mostly 90-degree angles because this was before they developed camera moving.
Yeah, because you can actually, if you use the arrow buttons, you can literally walk around like I did in the DS.
Yeah, as with Gen 6, I believe, although it's running shoes instead of fucking roller skates, you go faster if you use the stick, and you can go slower and only in 4 directions if you use the D-pad.
For people who want that classic feel.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Indeed. Is there any Pokemon Go integration or anything like that, or is this all?
Not yet. Pokemon Home integration is going to be added, but I feel like it's not that's another thing we could talk about is that these games were originally released, or not originally released, but there was a sizable patch, day one patch, that added most of the actual music.
Yeah, that was a problem.
Well, I think the reason for that is because they were trying to compensate with the supply chain fuck-ups by literally shipping it early and expecting to be fixing stuff after that, which normally I don't think is great, but also I don't think that the game should necessarily be judged for how it was before that, since it was not intended to be put in things before that, really.
I guess it depends if they update later print runs, because eventually the internet functionality of the Switch is going to go away, and then this game will be left without any music, so...
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it has music, it's just shitty MIDI music.
Yeah.
Okay, what was I saying before that?
I lost track as well.
So anyway, it looks overall pretty good, but even then, there's still a lot of stuff that is going to remind you of how stuff has changed in the years since then. it still feels primitive in some ways, and for people who wanted a true modernization, you're not getting that, and they were always very clear about that, frankly.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I guess we're done for now.
I think so.
All right, then. So that also means we are done with this episode of Fragments of Silicon. The week ahead, as mentioned, there is no second show until February at the earliest. And, for various reasons, it's not necessarily in stone that MSP Season 14 will be launching then. But be sure to tune in after this for our post show, which will be taking the space. Let's see. Nothing this Friday, and on the Sunday reviews, we'll be covering Tinytopia, which is a city building management game. Think Sim City. It with some twists, which I honestly don't like, but more on that on Sunday. Tangent Rush, which will be an impressions video. Armored Head, and Flight of the Athena, which is a twin stick shmup. Like, it is a spaceship shooter, but kind of has twin stick functionality. Kind of doesn't. Or rather, it doesn't fire like a twin stick shooter does. It fires more like how it, unless you have the right weapon. I'll go into detail on Sunday. And yeah, until Sunday, I shall wish you good gaming.